to participate in the reading of the Megillah. And therefore I'd like to have your attention. Unfortunately, the mic is not working, but I hope that most of us can hear you on the speaker. Okay, you're ready.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're all waiting.
I can only be with you, unfortunately, for the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
Have to leave you.
Yes.
I know that
He's abroad. He's abroad somewhere. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
امیدوارم که در سالی که در پیش داریم همراه با موفقیت باشیم همگی و هر چه زودتر مملکت عزیزمون نجات پیدا بکنه. من میدونم همگی مشتاق بازگشت به مملکتتون هستین هر چه زودتر و من همیشه اعتقاد و امیدم و توکلم به درگاه خداوند هست و معتقدم که سرانجام نیروی روشنایی بر تاریکی چیره خواهد شد و همگی قادر خواهیم بود در بازسازی کشور سهم خودمون رو ادا بکنیم. برای همگی شما آرزوی موفقیت در این سالی که در پیش هست میکنم و با آرزویی که هر چه زودتر همدیگه رو تو مملکت خودمون ببینیم. متشکرم.
Okay, now we're going to have Yehuda. Yehuda? All right, now we're going to have the reading for, especially as we had been spoken about, to have the beginning of the reading of the Megillah.
Very well.
What I would like to have from all of our friends here is to all share with our energy so that we can bring peace to Iran, inasmuch as the Zohar that I will shortly quote, which states that the kingdom of Iran will be the final kingdom that will either bring peace on earth or, chas v'shalom, heaven forbid, the other way. Okay, so we're beginning now with the reading of the Megillah, and I ask again all of us to please lend our hearts and our strength so that our dear friend, the future Shah of Iran, shall bring peace instead of catastrophe to the entire world.
ויהי בימי אחשורוש ואחשורוש המלך מהודו ועסקו 27 ומהמדינה בימים ההם כשבט המלך אחשורוש על כיסא מלכותו אשר בשושן הבירה בשנת 3 למלכו עשה משתה לכל שריו ועבדיו חיל פרס ומדי הפרטמים ושרי המדינות לפניו בהראותו את עושר כבוד מלכותו ואת כיכר תפארת גדולתו ימים רבים 80 ומעט יום ובמות הימים האלה עשה המלך אורן הנמצאים בשושן הבירה ומגדול ועד קטן משתה 7 ימים בחצר גינת ביתן המלך חור כרפס ותכלת אחוז וחבלי בוץ וארגמן עזלי לכסף ועמוד דשש מיטות זהב וכסף על רצפת בהת והשש ודהר וסוחרת והשקות בכלי זהב וכלים מכלים שונים ויין מלכות רב קריאת המלך והשתייה כדעת אין אונס כי כן ייסד המלך על כל רב ביתו לעשות רצון איש ואיש גם ושתי המלכה עשתה משתי נשים בית המלכות אשר למלך אחשורוש ביום השביעי כתב לב המלך ביין אמר למהומה מזיתה חרבונה בכתב אבטר ותרבר קרקס 17 עשרים המשרתים מפני המלך אחשורוש ושתי המלכה לפני המלך את המלכות להראות העמים 20 את יופיה כי טובת מראה היא ועצמה אין המלכה ושתי לבוא בדבר המלך אשר ביד הסריסים ויצוף המלך מאוד וחמתו בארבו ויאמר המלך החכמים יודעתין כי כן דבר המלך לפני כל יודע שת דברים והקרוב אליו קר שנשת על אדמת התרשיש מרס מרסנה ממוכן 17 פרס ומדי רואה פני המלך היושבים ראשונה במלכות כדת מה לעשות במלכה ושתי על אשר שלחת את נעמה המלך, אחשוורוש ביד הסריסים.
Hello? Yes, okay. We're all very excited that a few words that you shared with us. Well, next year you know where. Back in Tehran. That's right. Okay, so again, have a wonderful holiday, and we'll talk to you soon when you get back. Thank you. Right. I just want to share your words. The Shah again wishes everyone a happy holiday, and he's sorry he cannot be with us this evening, but next year, he says, in Tehran together. Okay, and a very good night to you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Chag Sameach to all of you. This year, hopefully, as the year indicates, Tafshin Nunhei, the year of change, in which we shall realize the elevated consciousness of not only a handful of people, but of the entire world, as indicated by Rabbi Avraham Azulai, being close to the year 2000, the year of which we will either see the fruits, and Yezat Hashem, we shall see the fruits of our efforts to raise the people, to raise their consciousness, and finally, as in the days of Purim, where the miracles were wrought not by God, but by the people, as they did in Purim. We know that when we have come here year after year to hear the reading of the Megillah, it is not out of tradition, because we do not believe in tradition. We do not believe that on Mount Sinai, laws have been given to us so that we have now created a new religion. But rather, revelation on Mount Sinai brought with it the opportunity and the power by which man can restore the entire universe back to its position before the year of Adam's sin. It is now 5,755 years that we have seen no change. The same chaos, the same slaughter as Cain and Abel, which began in the first year and continues to this very day without any change whatsoever. And only because within this year, for some reason, and I believe the reason could be attributed to the year of change, that we have been fortunate to be given most of the secrets of the universe, the secrets that can finally provide us with what we have always thought could be a reality of mind over matter. Meaning that if our minds are set to change the world, and when I say change the world, I don't mean merely another government, merely a change of countries, but I mean change that can finally bring the fruits of Etz HaChaim into our midst. The reason why Purim is so important, more so than any other holiday, and yet traditional Jewry still maintains Yom Kippur as the Holy of Holies, Rosh Hashanah, Shavuot, Pesach as the most important holidays, and we also stick in a little Purim on the side, because that was an event that merely brought a wonderful result, a wonderful victory. But we know what the Zohar and the Talmud have stated. And unfortunately, the people are not aware of that information. But that is not new information that I bring you this evening. It is information that has been with us for thousands of years. But unfortunately, Satan, with his corrupted consciousness, has overwhelmed all of us into believing the idea of religion. And yet, what does the Talmud say? What does the Zohar state? That all of the holidays will disappear because they are only an illusion. The only holiday that will remain is Purim, that most insignificant holiday that most Jews today will not be found in the synagogue any longer, will not be hearing the Megillah read this evening, because they have never found any purpose or meaning to the Megillah other than tradition. And as Rabbi Ashlock stated back in 1935, that if we sell religion on the basis of tradition, then we have come to the end of religion. And therefore, what we have found through the Zohar, and more so through Rabbi Isaac Luria, who presented us with a more detailed and clarified version of the Zohar, presenting the meaning of Purim as it should have been for thousands of years. But as I said, we have been asleep. Satan has done a wonderful number, provided us with his corrupted sequences, has provided us with a feeling that things are great, until, of course, they're no longer great. He has even forced us into accepting Murphy's Law as a part of reality. And we stupid people go on generation after generation, living with the chaos in our lives, and there is no one who is spared that chaos, pain, and suffering. All of us have undergone one form or another of pain and suffering. And you know what? There is no end in sight. But yet, the human being, the most intelligent of all the kingdoms, continues in the way of his forefathers, his tradition, and paying so little attention to the one holiday that is eternal. This is not merely the words of the Zohar, it is also the words of the Talmud. No holiday, including the Bible, shall remain, for they are illusionary. What does it mean, illusionary? Here today, gone tomorrow is the explanation of illusion. Here now, gone tomorrow. However, Purim does not disappear. It remains permanent. Why? Why have they singled out this very insignificant holiday, by which most Jews have come to celebrate this holiday as one in which the Jews achieved a victory over the enemy? But there have been many instances where the Jew has come out the victor. But I must also state that more times than when he has come out as the victor, he has come out as the victim. More times has his landscape been filled with rubble of devastation and destruction, internally, externally, environmentally, etc. And this year, with our raised consciousness, with the benefit of the new Siddur, that history-making volume that just appeared only a few weeks ago, we are truly making history. Do you know why we're making history? Because we're going to change 5,755 years of history. All around the world, we're changing history. And changing history means not changing one government for another, not one philosophy for another, but changing the one thing that should have been changed from the very beginning. The dwelling, the dominion of the tree of life reality, which knows of no pain, which knows of no suffering. There is such a reality. It was stated in the first section of Genesis. The two trees only represent two realities, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And yet, we haven't found the answers. We have not found the methodology by which we can change disaster into good fortune, illness into well-being. But we are there. We are there. The first instance by which the Jews demonstrated the system of Kabbalah took place where? In Persia. But Satan, with his corrupt sequences, had played a number on us. What is this Megillah Esther? The history of Jews in Iran. A story about the victory of the Jews over Haman. This is the way Jews have believed that Megillah to contain the history and nothing more for 2,400 years. But that has changed, and it will change rapidly, for we have no choice. What we will be reading today, and as we pass out the Megillah Esther, you will see changes, because life requires changes, or not, we are asleep. You know that at night we are asleep. Does that mean your mind doesn't work? Does that mean your heart does not function? And yet we are still asleep. Just because we appear to be awake, unfortunately, if we have not experienced any changes in our lives by which we can control our lives, control our destiny, we are asleep, because Satan, with his sequences, with his DNA, control over our lives, has always been far superior than whatever we could muster to try to change 5,000 years of history. The reading of the Megillah tonight is here for only one reason. And if you haven't the need for it, then there is no reason for ever attending a reading of the Megillah or for any other matter, any of the holidays, any of the other mitzvot, if they cannot directly benefit you. Because that is the only purpose. Satan has convinced us of a religion, and so we pay duty to God. That was never the intent. Not only that, but the Zohar says, self, commanded, is idol worshiping. That if you believe in religion, if you believe that God gave us a religion, gave us commandments, then you are believing in idol worshiping, says the Zohar, the Parshat South, the section that we will be reading next week. Clearly stated. I could not make that statement, but in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we must make a change. 5,755 years is enough. And the time has come, and we will make that change. When we read that Megillah, we are going to read the Megillah with all of its codes. The codes that brought the victory, that brought control Jews in Persia of yesteryear. And so too we celebrate not because of a victory that took place, which has no influence, no benefit for me personally, just because once upon a time there was an Independence Day or a July 4th. For us, the reading of the Megillah is not a reenactment, but taking in what the Ari HaKadosh stated is a very particular and peculiar situation that we have present with us tonight. If we do not have knowledge, we cannot connect with the event. We must have knowledge. We have been ignorant for too long of a period. The change as the Zohar stated, that in our age, and if Rabbi Avram Azalai can state that by the year 2000, we shall see nature turn into miracles, and what we have considered to be nature, because we don't understand it, no, we have control over nature, will become miracles, meaning it will be so far and in between. But miracles shall be a daily occurrence, because man will learn how to control the natural environment. Man will know that he, as God, can control. We are Chelik Elokai Mimal. We are a part of God, and that means we have been given the same capabilities to control nature, says Rabbi Avram Azulai. When we read the Purim Megillah this evening, what we will be reading is connecting, as I will shortly state, a peculiar, once a year event of a light that makes its presence only on Purim and no other night, no other day of the year. Not on Yom Kippur, not on Rosh Hashanah, and not on Shavuot. Only on Purim. And so if you want to know what was so significant about Purim, is because when Mordechai and Daniel returned from Jerusalem, they brought with them the unwritten Zohar. They brought with them the system by which they did not need the arms. They did not need the force, the physical force, to overcome their enemies. And we're not discussing enemies. Ill health is an enemy. Cancer is an enemy. Financial disaster is an enemy. Social breakups is an enemy. But we have been brainwashed into believing an enemy means only someone who will attack us physically. That's the only enemy that we face in reality, that we face in life's existence. That's how he's put us asleep. The Ari said that the reason why Purim happened is not because it happened, but because the Jews knew how to take advantage of a particular, and I say peculiar, cosmic event that took place only on Purim. And therefore, Mashiach, whatever our concept of Mashiach is, that we all agree it means well-being, that concept arrived only once in 5,755 years. That year, when the Jews took advantage of the truths that Mordechai and Daniel brought back with them to Iran, to then Persia. The secrets by which they had the capability to overcome the enemy, and this is not really referring to Haman, because states the Zohar, Haman is inclusive not only of the physical force that he attempted to Chas v'Shalom annihilate all of the Jews, but this Megillah Esther contains the secrets by which, hopefully, soon, according to Avraham Azulai, we will be able to tell cancer, you leave and take a vacation. Financial disaster, you leave and take a vacation. But you know, there's one problem that we have with that. With Avraham Azulai, I have found we have one problem. You know what the problem is? It's too good to be true. And therefore, most of us will dismiss it. Some of us will even outrightly reject that kind of concept. That we can begin to control the destiny of our lives? Of course not. Never happened before. Why will it happen now? That is man's enemy, says the Zohar. To raise the consciousness of the Jew that he will ultimately be able to control his destiny. We Jews are too smart to be fooled by something as wild and revolutionary as that. And therefore the Zohar says, woe unto those who will be in this period of the 4.5 years, and praiseworthy. Woe unto those, because even while the miracles will be happening, since their consciousness will be one of rejection, they will not, even if they use the system, even if they make use of all of the different names that we have, and specifically the 72 names, which according to the Zohar was the 72 names that 99 and 9/10% of the Jews don't even know where it came from. Because you know why? Because they are ignorant that in chapter 14, verses 19, 20, and 21 contain exactly 72 letters. I've studied all my life. I've read that Parsha of Shlach every year, year in and year out. Never did I take notice, not once did I ever take notice, that there were 3 verses, one following the other, that contained 72 letters. 3 verses, exactly 72 letters, each one. Because therein lies the secret by which not God split the Red Sea, as most of us still believe, because it is so clearly stated, and yet I, who have learned for years upon years, have learned the same verse and never knew what it meant. When the Jews were faced with the Egyptians behind them, and there was the sea in front of them, and they began to plead and pray to God. God, you've got to do something for us. And you know what God's response was? Ma tetzakalai. Why are you yelling and praying to me? What kind of an answer is that from a God? My friends, I'm not giving you an interpretation. I'm giving you simple verses. Ma tetzakalai, says God. Why are you praying to me? Who else do you pray? Don't you go to the synagogue and pray to God? And God says, Ma tetzakalai. And you know what God told them to do? And so, they jumped into the water. Says the Zohar. You mean they wanted to commit suicide? That's all it says. God says, why are you praying to me? Well, you saw. And they jumped into the Red Sea. Says the Zohar. What's this all about? To whom else, if not to God, should the Jews pray to? Says the Zohar. Just before the event of the splitting of the Red Sea, the Jews were taught the secret of the 72 names, of which, thank God, today, in the past few months, we have begun to make use of these 72 names. Our new Siddur contains prayers for the first time, in 5,755 years. Prayers that can bring that ultimate control over our destiny. To control those events that bring chaos into our lives. Says did Rabbi Shimon? They forgot that yesterday they were told that by making use of these 72 names, of which we have them included in the Megillah, although coded, it was only until the Rabbi Isaac Luria came along. But Rabbi Isaac Luria came along 400 years ago. He gave us all the secrets of the Megillah. Did I? Yes. But like the famous physicist said today, one day, soon, a curtain will be withdrawn, and the simplicity of everything will be there, and we will all ask, how come I didn't see it before? When the time comes, the curtain is removed. The time has come for us. And the curtain has begun to be removed. We are beginning. And in our daily lives, and the thousands of people around the world today can attest to the difference in what this one Siddur has done in just one short month. Hundreds of miracle stories of what this prayer book is doing for us. This is not a prayer book. This is tapping the cosmos, tapping the energy that God said you can split a Red Sea, Jews. Did you forget? Only yesterday I gave you the lesson. And they remembered. Again, Moses reminded them. And who split the sea, says the Zohar? God? No. God said he would not. Who split the Red Sea? The Jews themselves. They had brought the knowledge of the 72 names. Unfortunately, said Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that this knowledge would remain concealed for whatever reason until our time. And for whatever reason, the curtain is slowly but surely being moved to the side, and we're beginning to see things as they really are. The Megillah connects to this one aspect. And to make that connection with that power, there's a power that makes its appearance only tonight and tomorrow night. Without going into the details, who will make use of it tonight? We will be making use of it tonight. In Jerusalem, tomorrow night, they will make use of it. Or any of the cities that had a wall around it will be making use of it at that time. What will we be connecting to? What do we hope to draw? What is so significant? This is not significant, because this has always been an instrument, not a narration, and we should perish that thought. This was merely to record some wonderful event that connects me as much as to the July 4th celebration. There's no longer even a July 4th celebration. It depends when July 4th. If it's on Sunday, we'll celebrate it. If it's on Tuesday, we'll celebrate it on Sunday anyway. Because the day doesn't know no significance. So too, the event did not have any significance for us. What was significant is that on the night of Purim, we, if we have the knowledge, and we do have the knowledge, if we can connect to that most awesome power that appears only tonight and no other night for us who are not in walled cities like Jerusalem, only until this night, through the methodology that Mordecai and Daniel provided for us for the past 2,400 years. But we just didn't know that this instrument, like I didn't know, like 99% of the Jews today do not know that there are 3 verses that contain 72 letters. And without asking, and if you did know that, you'd ask, how come these 3 verses have exactly 72 letters in each verse? That's unusual. But we don't even recognize that fact. A simple fact. We simply did not have the knowledge. Today we do. As the Ari HaKadosh, in his gates of meditation concerning the event of Purim, Ki Haman Harasha Haya Astrologos, Gadol. Haman was a very highly intellectual astrologer. As it is stated in the Megillah, Vayipel Pur Hu HaGoral Miyom Liyom. And he knew that on the night of Purim, there is what we call a dormita. The vehicle, known in Kabbalistic terminology as Ze'ir Ampin, is asleep. And therefore he felt, and Ze'ir Ampin represents the sustainer. God is asleep. God is asleep. And therefore he chose this day to do what he had planned to do. But what he also didn't know is that God knew that it was vital that this idea of Dormita, which time would not permit me, but we have explained it insofar as Rosh Hashanah is concerned, that he also knew that on this particular day, at the time of this Dormita, there will be a heyara, a ray of light that will sustain the Jew, a ray of light that will never disappear. V'ratzah Hashem Yitbarach, and God desired shebekol shana b'mei hapurim ki yotza b'hem, af im yu zan panim b'panim, al titgaleh hayera hanizga b'yamim hahem v'lo titvatel. That ray of light that appeared, as Haman knew it, so did Mordechai and Daniel know. That was the night that they could overcome the enemy. Just as the time for Haman was this night, so too, Zeh le'umad zeh is an old rule, both in Kabbalah and in Talmud. For every negative event, for every negative possibility, there is always the positive possibility. That while he could have taken advantage of this night to destroy, so too, if the Jews, including the Jews in Europe, had he known the combination, because God said that each and every single year, this ray that while the cosmos is closed, there is no sustenance furnished on this night, and that's what Haman knew, says the Ari HaKadosh. But God still provided a ray of light that descended into our world. And what God did, says the Ari HaKadosh, and I wouldn't know that it does exist, because we're not discussing a physical ray of light. We are discussing the light force of God, that every year, in the time, in the days, there are 2 days of Purim, this light will be present. However, only for those who could tap into that light. You know, it's like there's a telephone station somewhere around here. But if you don't tune into that station, if you don't take advantage of the telephone system, the fact that it exists doesn't mean it serves a purpose in your own life. And this is what the Megillah Esther is about. It contains the different configurations of the Tetragrammaton. It contains different configurations of the 72 names. And thereby, we in our day, as the Jews, together with Mordecai and Daniel in his day, accomplished complete dominion. It wasn't only dominion over Haman, because Haman was merely a symbol of chaos in this world. And when we come to the name of Haman, we meditate on that instrument that will permit us to tap that energy that can destroy chaos in our lives. And chaos comes, unfortunately, in many forms. The letters, the 3 letters, the Kaf Hekaf that you see distributed throughout this auditorium is one of the 72 names that we use, not only in our prayer book, but is found in the Megillah. It is in code, unfortunately, and so you can't recognize it unless you utilize the Ari HaKadosh, who pointed out each and every single meditation. Because he was the one who told us that this will not bring victory unless you use the codes that are, unfortunately, concealed within the narration. No less than as Rabbi Shimon defined the Torah for those who translate the Torah superficially. For those who consider the stories of the Torah as nothing more than just a recording of history, indeed are fools, because they have not taken full advantage of what the Torah or this Megillah has to offer us. It is our connection to mastery over our destiny. It is something that is so far from the consciousness of most of us that we, hopefully, in this short period, will see these miracles. But the problem, stated the Zohar, is that we are Jews. That's our problem. What's the problem with you, Jew? What's your problem? You're Jewish, you got a problem? Yeah. He says you look into the Torah. What happened? What happened when the Jews split the Red Sea? What happened? That means they could defy the natural process of creation. Water flows, and they could tell water, stop. Stop. Not only did they put a stop to the Red Sea, but every sea in the world stopped flowing. Every sea in the world. That means although they were in the Sinai desert, they could command the Atlantic Ocean, the Euchinus, as it is referred to stop movement. Remain as a solid object. What happened the day after? And the fact that Torah stresses the day after. They said, but we have no water. Where are we going to have water to drink? And they go on and give this argument to complaining to Moses. Moses, is this the reason you took us out of Egypt? So we should die in the wilderness? But wait a second, didn't you just see a miracle that you performed? Don't you think you can create the miracle of producing water? No, they already forgot. And therefore we read Parshat Zachar. Why do we read Parshat Zachar? Zachor, and it says Zachor, Zachor, and at the end, what are the last 2 words of the reading? Lo tishkach, do not forget. But you told us, God, already a few times, give us a break. You told us to remember. Well, remember. Why do you have to then end off that reading? Lo tishkach, in fact, it is the only reading of the Torah that you can't go to a golf course on Shabbat. You must come to the synagogue and listen to that. All the other readings are not required. You feel that you can come and listen, you want to come, you get something out of it, you're tapping something out of the reading, fine. But when it comes to Parshat Zachor, every man, woman, and child that is of an intelligence that can understand is required to listen to this Shabbat. Why? Just as past Shabbat. Why? Because when the Jew sees victory, their consciousness, which immediately puts us to sleep, and we forget that which happened only yesterday. What we have come here for today is not merely to come and hear the Megillah, obviously. Not only have we come here tonight to tap a unique power that can bring Mashiach into our own personal lives, but there is a far more serious problem. Serious problem that we knew years ago, when I always quoted this Zohar on Purim, that we knew that peace in Israel can never be achieved unless we come to the realization that the names, coded names, can bring control. I quote from the Zohar in Pasha Balak, in Shlach, I'm sorry. We're speaking about Mashiach, the end of days, and as I repeat for those of you who may never have heard Rabbi Abraham Azulai's words, that by the year 2000, it's all over. By the year 2000, that's to me only like 4.5 years to go. 4,000 meaning not January 1999, or December 31st, 1999, but it's that Rosh Hashanah. ואומר ראש הישיבה שהוא מדייק ושאל המשיח, אני יש משיח. מאין ידע Daniel, how did Daniel know, שאמר פריס פריסת מלכותך ויהבת למדי ופרס. How did Daniel know 2,400 years ago? He lived in Persia. Of course, he may have been a proud Persian. And he said that the last kingdom that will govern the entire world, will be the kingdom of Persia. In our day, they control the World Trade Center, and whenever they want to, because they're not yet sophisticated, they will control everything. Not only are their numbers 6 million in the United States, but they are rapidly expanding all over the world. And it is only, like some of my friends in the government in Israel, whom I've spoken to, who are so short-sighted and don't see further than their nose, that it is that country that will ultimately, and unfortunately sooner than we would like, assume dominion over the entire world, according to Daniel. And he reaches that from the verse, Shama Paris Prisat Malkutecha Ve'ir Lemadai Paras. The last kingdom will be given to Paras, Persia. Paras Prisat, he explains, Malkutcha Harisha, Amudei Mashiach. And unfortunately, the king of Persia will be an evil person. Can we change that? I tried, and we've tried this evening. Because the Shah of Iran, whom I've been very friendly now, on a very friendly basis for years, understands that bloodshed will never solve the world's problems. Wars for the best reasons, murder for the best reasons, will never resolve the world's problems. Yishlot melech Pahlavi yichvosh habei malot meluchot. This is how it says the Zohar now. From Daniel, the Zohar has gleaned that the king of Persia shall capture many kingdoms, Yishlat al Eretz Hagdosha Yud Bet Kodesh. And included in his conquest will be the land of Israel. And Israel never happened. I spoke to the best strategy people in Israel. Never happened. But you know what? I have a little more faith in the Zohar. And he will be there for 12 months. Not only that, Mashiach ben Yosef. As we know, there will be one Mashiach ben Yosef, and the final, ultimate Mashiach ben David. And only then, there will be bloodshed, says the Zohar. Can we change it? You know why they gave us a Purim? Yeah. Are we still going to buy that? So we can be festive today because we achieved a victory some 2,400 years ago. We come tonight to change history. Thank God there are many thousands around the world that do not hear these words as something that is far out, incredible, too true to be, too far out to be true. No. Tonight, all around the world, wherever the Megillah is being read with all of its codes, and I'm saying all of its codes, we do not miss one. Because every code taps into a particular energy that with that energy creates dominion and control. We've come here tonight because the problems not only are in Algeria, not only in the United States, not only in Argentina, not only in Italy, where we have suffered under the impact of this revolutionary government in Tehran, but we have come here tonight to change history. That's why they gave us a Megillah. Not just to hear the reading of the Megillah. Not only to change destiny in our own lives, so that we can remove the chaos, pain, and suffering that we've been forced to endure by Satan consciousness over 2,400 years. Since that document was created, but never put to use. We, for the first time in history, we are making use of this document according to the Zohar, according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The difference is, and the reason why Moses did not make it, with the Dor Dayah, the generation of whose capacity of intellect, knowledge, could never be surpassed, was the people were not involved. The people did not believe one miracle after another. They were too smart to fall for that trap. And they elected and opted for the trap of Satan. So they perished in the desert. We again are back. As the Ali HaKadosh stated, most of us are back today, are from those very same people who are incarnated and are being incarnated in these last few years. And who this time around will not express their egocentricity by stating, hogwash, pain and suffering is part of the landscape. It cannot be changed. Well, I say to you today that we are making a change all around the world. Not only are we affecting tens of thousands of people every day of the year, all around the world, people who are literally changing, elevating their sense of consciousness, but we are going to make a change in the entire world. And more importantly, we are going to change what the Zohar says, that without change, our destiny is as stated. But we do not accept that. The Zohar says we can change it. We have the tools. Tonight is that unique opportunity I wish we can make history tonight. Not next week, but tonight. We can all inject that kind of energy, that kind of feeling, that kind of consciousness into what the objective of the reading of this Megillah this evening is all about. I assure you that we will see changes that never before could have been dreamt of. Amen. Amen.